Hi, this is Shikha Bansal from Vinod Kothari and Company. In this brief presentation, I'll be discussing about multiple registration requirements in vehicle financing transactions and the impact of non-registration. Why are we talking about this? In a recent ruling, NCLAT has held that a creditor in whose favor charge is not registered under Section 77 of the Companies Act cannot claim rights as a secured creditor in liquidation proceedings under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So, in order to understand the implications of the case, let me just give a brief overview of the MV Act. Registration of vehicles under the MV Act is compulsory in order that one can use the vehicle. However, there are certain stipulations in the MV Act where the registration is held under hire purchase, lease, or hypothecation agreements. What the registering authority does that it makes an entry regarding existence of such agreements in the certificate of registration given to the registered owner. Further, where the registered owner applies for transfer of ownership, he has to first present the consent or NOC of the financer before the MV authorities. Therefore, we can say that the MV Act, to some extent and in a certain manner, protects the rights of a secured creditor. However, we must be aware of this thing that MV Act is only about registration of vehicles and not registration of security interest. And therefore, it does not deal with enforcement or priority rights of secured creditors. For that, I'll have to look up to different set of laws, which are Sarfazi Act, Companies Act, and IBC, or in general the common law. In this case, I mentioned about that is the Volkswagen case. The issue pertained to liquidation of a corporate borrower under the provisions of IBC. The relevant provision is Section 52. Section 52 preserves the right of a secured creditor to choose between two options. First option is I stand outside the liquidation proceedings and realize my asset. The second option is I stand in liquidation queue and enforce my priority rights as a secured creditor in from and take dividends from the liquidation estate. For that, the secured creditor has to submit his debt. He has to prove his debt, and to prove his debt he can either submit certificate of registration of ROC or CERSI registration or entry in the information utility. On that basis the liquidator verifies his debt. So once the verification is over and it is determined that the secured creditor is actually so, he is allowed to exercise one of the two rights under section 52. However, this right comes with a rider, and that rider is contained in Section 77 of the Companies Act. We must note that Section 52 of IBC does not mention about Section 77 of the Companies Act per se. But Section 77 of the Companies Act was amended by IBC by 11th schedule of the IBC so as to include references to liquidators appointed under IBC. So one we all are aware of what Section 77 says. So Section 77 of the Companies Act requires mandatory registration of charges. Of course, it applies only in cases where the borrower is a company as defined under the Companies Act. Subsection 3 specifically is a non-obstant clause which overrides anything contained in any other law. What it says is the charge becomes void unless it is duly registered with ROC. The liquidator shall not take into account any unregistered charge. However, note that the claim remains intact. I can still prove my debt as an unsecured creditor. But what the liquidator will do is the liquidator will not take into account any kind of security over my claim. He'll say that my charge is an unsecured charge. This is what exactly happened in this NCLAT ruling of Volkswagen. So this takes us to the next question. What if the charge is registered with CERSI and not with ROC? CERSI we all know is the central registry under the Securitization, Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act 2002. That is the Sarfazi Act. In that case too, if my charge is registered with CERSI and not with ROC, the answer would still remain the same. Section 77(3) cannot be disregarded by the liquidator. Once the company goes into insolvency or liquidation proceedings, the enforcement rights of a creditor are to be determined by the interplay between the insolvency laws and the security enforcement law. So when I'm talking about security enforcement law, Let us talk about Sarfazi Act. Here we should note sections 26D and 26C of the Sarfazi Act. These sections form part of Chapter 4A of the Sarfazi Act, which was inserted by way of 2016 amendments. These are not that old amendments. While requirement of registration with the central registry under Section 23 of the Sarfazi Act was always there, however, it was not linked to enforcement rights of the creditor or his priorities vis-a-vis other creditors. But now, after 2016 amendments, this section 26D directly links enforcement rights of the secured creditor with CERSAI registrations. The secured creditor will not be able to enforce security interest under SARFAESI if the security interest has not been registered with CERSAI. Further, as per section 26C, a registered charge will take precedence over a subsequent security interest. Therefore, SARFAESI registrations are compulsory so as to act under SARFAESI. So, in general, my rights under SARFAESI cannot be denied where I have done SARFAESI registrations but have not registered the charge with ROC. But again, one may note that Section 77(3) of the Companies Act also include references to any other creditor. This in turn can be open to interpretation. Say where there are competing creditors and there are two creditors, one whose charge is registered with ROC and CERSAI, and the other whose charge is registered with CERSAI and not ROC. So the second creditor can possibly contend. I am saying possibly because there is a gap in law and this particular provision is open to interpretation. So the first creditor can always dispute the rights of second creditor on the basis of section 77(3), saying that look, my charge is registered both with ROC as well as CERSAI. Therefore, I am able to enforce my rights under SARFAESI as well as I am protected by section 77 of the Companies Act. However, the second creditor is not protected under section 77, although he is able to enforce his rights under Sarfazi Act. So there is this interpretation issue to that extent. In any case, where the borrower is into liquidation, section 77(3) will override everything and ROC certificate would be necessary to prove security interest. But in general cases, in practical cases, we have seen that ROC registration might not be a common practice. In fact, it is mostly not. So why? What are the probable reasons? So the short-term funding, small loan size, lack of awareness may be the common reasons. Also, it is seen that in most cases, the vehicles are transferred after clearance of loans. So companies do want to avoid the hassles of charge modification, satisfaction, etc. So this so when we have talked about the interplay between section 77 of the Companies Act and IBC and SAFEZI, so should this car financing ruling of INCLAT really cause of concern in vehicle financing transaction? I would say yes, because it is important for the sake of ensuring perfection of security interest and proper ranking in insolvency. But there is other way also to look at it. Vehicle finances may always take action before commencement of insolvency. I am saying before commencement of insolvency. Why? Because once insolvency commences, moratorium provisions would set in. And once these moratorium provisions set in, it becomes impossible to initiate debt recovery actions. So you won't be able to repossess the vehicle, right? So as I discussed earlier, my Sarfazi rights, repossession rights might will not be questioned in all possibilities if the charge is not registered with Registrar of Companies, provided that my charge is registered with CERSAI. So CERSAI registration is mandatory if I want to go to repossess the vehicles in case the corporate borrower is not in liquidation or insolvency. So the car financiers can always go and seize the assets before the commencement of insolvency or liquidation. Because once insolvency commences, there are moratorium provisions, and once liquidation commences, the liquidator will challenge my rights under section 77 of the Companies Act. So, what are the lessons that we have learned from this ruling? What are the actionables on my part if I am a lender? So, number one, I should ensure that the borrower does registration under Section 77 of the Companies Act. So, for that, the borrower has a timeline of initial 30 days from the creation of charges, and then 60 days with additional fee, and then 60 days by application to ROC with ad valorem fee. What if the borrower does not do the same? As a lender, I can always go for Section 78 application. For that, I need not wait for the entire period, including extension, etc. If the borrower does not register the charge within the initial timeline of 30 days, I can make an application under Section 78. I need not wait for the borrower to act in the extended timelines. So, say what if even the extended timelines over? What if you say that even this entire period of 120 days is over and my charge is not yet registered? So, see, the present law, the present Companies Act, due to certain amendments made over time, does not have provisions for condonation of delay as it used to be earlier, right? And there is a gap in law. The law does not address this concern where the entire timeline for registration of charges, including the extended timelines, are already over. So, in our view, the parties may have to revitalize the entire arrangement and the agreements and then go for registration of charges. Of course, in my view, this cannot be retrospective. This particular revitalization can only be prospective. That is to say, if someone else has created as well as registered another charge during all this time when my own charge was unregistered, I cannot claim priority rights over that person, right? So now aside, it would be relevant to discuss whether this registration requirement is applicable in similar cases where we generally treat transactions as financing transactions, etc. So, say in case of financial leases are defined as financial assistance are also included under the definition of security interest under the Sarfazi Act. However, note that the lessor is the owner in terms of law. Further, one should also see Section 36 of IBC. Under Section 36, there is an explicit exclusion of assets for which there has been no transfer of title, and these kind of assets are excluded from the purview of liquidation estate. Hence, Section 77's registration is not applicable. However, Cersei registrations may be mandatory. Operating leases, the question does not arise, not a financing transaction at all. Hire purchase, where there is a retention of title by the financer, charge registration may not be applicable. HP financing transactions, these are akin to normal financing transactions and therefore charge registration is recommended. So, say where the company is a co borrower. In that case, where there is a charge on an asset owned by the company, charge registration is always recommended. Hope the presentation has been useful to you and the discussion was exhaustive. Thank you and have a good day.